The millionaire standing in the doorway of the small matchmaking office looked completely out of place. His tailored charcoal suit worth more than 3 months of rent for the cramped space. Yet Lydia Carter barely glanced up from her computer screen as she finished typing notes from her last client meeting. "I'll be with you in just a moment," she said, her voice warm but distracted as her fingers flew across the keyboard. She had 3 more profiles to update before the end of the day, and the dating algorithm she had been tweaking for weeks was finally starting to show promising results. Yates Vaughn shifted his weight, unused to being made to wait, but something about the focused intensity of the woman behind the desk intrigued him. Her dark blonde hair was pulled back in a messy bun, and reading glasses perched on her nose as she squinted at the screen. The office itself was cluttered with papers, coffee mugs, and framed photos of happy couples covering nearly every surface. It was the opposite of his sleek downtown penthouse, and he found himself oddly charmed by the chaos. "All right," Lydia said, finally looking up and removing her glasses. Her green eyes met his, and for a brief moment, something flickered between them before she blinked and gestured to the chair across from her desk. "Sorry about that. Please, sit down. I'm Lydia Carter and welcome to Perfect Match. How can I help you today?" Yates settled into the somewhat wobbly chair, crossing one ankle over his knee. "Yates Vaughn. I'm here because my assistant thought it would be amusing to sign me up for your services as a birthday gift. I'm not actually interested in using a matchmaker." Lydia raised an eyebrow, leaning back in her chair. "Then why are you here?" Curiosity, mostly. And because she already paid for the consultation, so I figured I might as well show up. He gestured around the small office. "How does this work exactly?" "You pair people up based on what? Questionnaires, among other things." Lydia's tone was cool now, professional. She dealt with skeptics regularly, though most of them didn't wear watches that cost more than her car. "I use a combination of personality assessments, values alignment, lifestyle compatibility, and yes, good old-fashioned intuition. I've been doing this for 5 years, and I have an 83% success rate with long-term relationships." Yates leaned forward, genuinely interested now. "That's impressive. What counts as long-term, still together after 2 years at minimum? Many of my couples are engaged or married now." She tapped her desk with one finger. "Look, Mr. Vaughn, I appreciate you honoring your assistant's gift, but I don't take clients who aren't serious about finding a relationship. If you're just here out of obligation, we can call this consultation complete, and you can tell her you gave it a shot." There was something refreshing about her directness. Most people in Yates's life told him what they thought he wanted to hear, dancing around the truth to maintain his favor. This woman clearly didn't care about impressing him. "What if I wanted to learn about the business side instead?" The words came out before he had fully thought them through. "I invest in small companies, help them scale up. Your success rate suggests you're onto something valuable." Lydia's expression shifted from cool professionalism to something guarded. "This isn't about business for me. It's about helping people find genuine connections. Those two things aren't mutually exclusive." Yates pulled out his phone, scrolling through his notes. "The matchmaking industry is growing rapidly. With the right investment, you could expand, hire additional matchmakers, reach more clients. That 83% success rate could help a lot more people. Or I could maintain quality over quantity and keep doing what I'm doing." Lydia stood up, crossing her arms. "I appreciate the offer, Mr. Vaughn, but I'm not interested in selling out or turning Perfect Match into some corporate entity. If that's all you came here for, I think we're done." Yates stood as well, surprised by the dismissal. He was offering her an opportunity most small business owners would kill for, and she was turning him down without even considering it. "You didn't even let me finish explaining. I don't need to hear more. I know how this goes. You invest, you want returns, you start pushing for changes that prioritize profit over people. I've seen it happen to friends in similar businesses." She moved toward the door, clearly expecting him to leave. "Thank you for stopping by." He should have left. He had a meeting in 40 minutes and 3 calls to return. Instead, Yates found himself saying, "Have dinner with me." Lydia turned, surprise evident on her face. "Excuse me, dinner. Tonight. Let me actually explain my approach to investment, no strings attached. If you're still not interested afterward, I'll drop it entirely." He wasn't sure why he was pushing this, only that walking away felt wrong. "Is this a business dinner or are you hitting on me?" Her tone was wary but not unfriendly. "Honestly, I'm not entirely sure myself." Yates offered a slight smile. "But I promise I'm not in the habit of mixing business with anything else, so let's call it professional." Lydia studied him for a long moment, and he found himself hoping she would say yes for reasons that had nothing to do with business potential. "Fine. But somewhere casual, and you're buying since you're the one asking. Deal. There's an Italian place 2 blocks from here, Giovanni's, 7 o'clock. I know it. I'll meet you there." She opened the door fully now, a clear dismissal, but her expression had softened slightly. "And Mr. Vaughn. Don't be late." Giovanni's was busy when Yates arrived at 6:55, the Friday evening crowd filling most tables with couples and families. He had changed into jeans and a button-down shirt, not wanting to show up in his work suit and make Lydia feel underdressed. The hostess recognized him immediately, having seen his face in business magazines, but he quietly requested a regular table in the back rather than any special treatment. Lydia arrived exactly at 7, wearing a simple green dress that brought out her eyes and made Yates realize she was prettier than he had initially registered. Her hair was down now, falling in waves past her shoulders, and she had traded her reading glasses for contacts. "Punctual," she noted, sliding into the booth across from him. "I appreciate that." They ordered wine and appetizers, and Yates found himself talking about his investment philosophy, how he looked for businesses with heart and purpose rather than just profit potential. He told her about the family-owned bakery he had helped expand, maintaining their recipes and values while reaching new markets. He mentioned the bookstore chain he had saved from bankruptcy by helping them integrate community events and author visits into their business model. Lydia listened, asking intelligent questions and gradually relaxing. "Okay, I admit that's not what I expected. Most investors I've encountered wanted to strip everything down to the bottom line. That's short-term thinking. The businesses that last are the ones that keep their soul." He paused as their entrees arrived, then continued. "But I meant what I said about respecting your decision. If you want to keep Perfect Match exactly as it is, I understand." "Tell me about you," Lydia said, changing the subject as she twirled pasta on her fork. "How does someone end up as an investor? Most millionaires I've met, and admittedly there haven't been many, seem to come from family money or tech startups." Yates laughed. "I'm neither. My dad was a construction worker. My mom was a teacher. I put myself through business school working 3 jobs, graduated with honors and a mountain of debt. Started working for an investment firm, made some smart calls, saved aggressively. Eventually started my own company focusing on ethical investments." He took a sip of wine. "The real money came from a pharmaceutical deal about 5 years ago. I helped connect a small research company with the right manufacturers and distributors for a breakthrough medication, made enough from that to be set for life." "So why keep working?" Lydia asked. "Because having money is boring if you're not doing anything meaningful with it." He met her eyes. Why did you become a matchmaker? Lydia set down her fork, her expression growing distant. My parents had the kind of love story you see in movies. High school sweethearts, married young, completely devoted to each other for 30 years. My dad died in a car accident when I was 22, and watching my mom's grief, seeing how much their love had meant, it made me realize that finding the right person is one of the most important things we can do in life. I was working in marketing at the time, hating every minute, and I just decided to do something that mattered. I'm sorry about your dad, Yates said quietly. Thank you. He would have liked what I'm doing now. He was always setting up his single friends playing Cupid at family gatherings. She smiled at the memory. I guess I inherited that from him. They talked through dinner and dessert, the conversation flowing easily from topic to topic. Yates learned that Lydia was 29, had a cat named Biscuit, loved mystery novels, and was a terrible cook, despite her Italian heritage on her mother's side. Lydia discovered that Yates was 32, played piano, had climbed Mount Kilimanjaro, and had a surprising weakness for romantic comedies. I'm not ashamed to admit I've seen When Harry Met Sally at least 15 times, Yates said as they walked out of the restaurant into the cool evening air. It's a perfect movie. I can't believe you just admitted that. Lydia laughed, a genuine sound that made something warm unfold in Yates's chest. Most guys I know would rather die than confess to liking romance. Most guys I know are idiots who think showing emotion makes them weak. He walked beside her as they headed toward the parking garage. Can I ask you something personal? Depends on the question. You spend all your time helping other people find love. Have you ever used your matchmaking skills on yourself? Lydia was quiet for a moment. Once. About 3 years ago. I met someone at a friend's wedding and I was so sure he was perfect for me. All the boxes checked, all the compatibility factors aligned. We dated for 8 months. What happened? I realized I had been so focused on making the match work on paper that I hadn't noticed we had zero actual chemistry. We liked the same things, wanted the same future, but there was no spark. Breaking up with him made me question everything about my process. She stopped walking, turning to face Yates. That's when I added the intuition factor. Sometimes people connect in ways that don't make logical sense, and that's okay. Yates stepped closer, close enough to see the gold flecks in her green eyes. And what does your intuition tell you about this? About us. That this was supposed to be a business dinner and it hasn't felt like business for at least an hour. Her voice was soft but steady. That you're not what I expected, that I want to see you again. Tomorrow. He was moving too fast, he knew, but something about Lydia made him want to throw caution aside. There's a jazz festival in the park, unless you hate jazz. I love jazz. But Yates, I need to be clear about something. She took a breath. I don't do casual. If we start this, if this becomes something, I need to know you're serious about it. My life is complicated enough without adding a relationship that's just for fun. I don't do casual either, he replied, meaning it. I haven't dated anyone seriously in 2 years because I was tired of wasting time on connections that were never going to go anywhere. But this feels different. You feel different. Lydia searched his face, looking for something, then nodded. Okay, tomorrow, the jazz festival, pick me up at noon. He walked her to her car, an older Honda that had clearly seen better days, and resisted the urge to kiss her goodnight. Too fast. Too soon, even if everything in him wanted to. Instead, he squeezed her hand and watched her drive away, already counting down the hours until he would see her again. The next morning, Yates found himself doing something he had not done in years, calling his best friend Marcus for advice about what to wear. Marcus, who had known him since college, laughed so hard he nearly dropped the phone. You're actually nervous about a date. The same guy who once gave a presentation to the board of directors without breaking a sweat is worried about impressing a girl. She's not just a girl, she's different. Yates stared at his closet, suddenly finding fault with every piece of clothing he owned. Should I wear the blue shirt or the gray one? The blue one. And Yates, good luck, man. It's about time you found someone worth getting nervous over. Lydia lived in a small apartment complex on the east side of town, and when Yates knocked on her door at exactly noon, he was greeted by a loud meow before Lydia appeared. She wore jeans and a white blouse, her hair in a ponytail, and somehow looked more beautiful than she had the night before. Sorry, that's Biscuit. He's very vocal about visitors. She grabbed her purse and a light jacket. Ready. The jazz festival was crowded with people enjoying the unseasonably warm October day. Food trucks lined one side of the park while 3 different stages featured rotating musicians. Yates bought them both lemonades, and they wandered from stage to stage, occasionally stopping to listen when a particular song caught their attention. This is one of my favorite events of the year, Lydia said as they found a spot on the grass near the main stage. A saxophonist was playing a soulful melody that drifted over the crowd. There's something about live music outside that just feels right. I haven't been to this in years, Yates admitted. Work always seemed to get in the way. You work too much, don't you? It wasn't really a question. Probably. It's easy to lose yourself in deals and meetings when you don't have anything pulling you home. He stretched out on the grass, propping himself up on his elbows. What about you? Do you ever take time off from matchmaking? Sundays are my complete off days. No client calls, no profile reviews, nothing. I usually spend them reading or hanging out with my best friend Rachel and her kids. Lydia lay back on the grass beside him, looking up at the cloudless sky. She's always on me about finding someone for myself, says I give all my energy to other people's happiness. She sounds wise. She's annoying, but I love her. Lydia turned her head to look at him. What about you? Who keeps you grounded? Marcus, mostly. We went to business school together. He's a lawyer now, corporate law, and possibly the only person who tells me when I'm being an idiot. Yates rolled onto his side, facing her. He said something this morning, though, about how I never get nervous about anything, but I was nervous picking you up today. Good nervous or bad nervous? Good. The kind that means something matters. They stayed at the festival until early evening, talking and listening to music and sharing food from various trucks. Yates learned that Lydia had a younger brother who taught English in South Korea, that she had once broken her arm falling out of a tree at age 10, and that her favorite color was actually yellow, not green despite how often she wore it. Lydia discovered that Yates played piano because his mother had insisted all her children learn an instrument, that he had an older sister who was a veterinarian in Colorado, and that he was allergic to shellfish but loved sushi anyway. As the sun began to set and the crowd started to thin, Yates walked Lydia back to his car. Before he could open the door for her, she turned to him suddenly. I need to tell you something, and I need you to be honest with your answer. Can you do that? Always, he promised. I'm falling for you. Fast. Faster than I should be, faster than makes logical sense. And it scares me because I've built my entire career on understanding compatibility and taking things slow, but nothing about this feels slow. She was speaking quickly, the words tumbling out. So I need to know if you feel it too, or if I'm completely misreading this situation. Yates cupped her face in his hands, his thumbs brushing her cheeks. You're not misreading anything. I feel it too. I spent the entire morning rearranging my schedule for the next 2 weeks to make sure I have time to see you. I called Marcus for advice about what to wear like I'm some teenager with his first crush. You're all I've thought about since yesterday. Okay, good, that's good. Lydia let out a shaky breath, then smiled. I had this whole speech prepared about taking risks and following instincts, but you kind of derailed it. Sorry. He wasn't sorry at all. You're not sorry, she laughed. Kiss me, Yates. He did, right there in the parking lot as the last rays of sunlight painted the sky orange and pink. It was soft and sweet and perfect, and when they finally pulled apart, both of them were smiling. The next few weeks passed in a blur of dates and phone calls and text messages. Yates took Lydia to a piano concert where a famous pianist performed Chopin and Rachmaninoff, and she surprised him by knowing every piece. Lydia brought Yates to her office and showed him her matching algorithm, walking him through the complex system she had developed, and he offered suggestions that made it even more efficient without changing its heart. They cooked dinner together at his penthouse, or rather, Yates cooked while Lydia sat on the counter and kept him company, since she had not been exaggerating about her terrible cooking skills. They spent a Sunday afternoon at the zoo with Rachel and her 2 kids, and Yates impressed everyone by knowing random animal facts and not minding when the 4-year-old insisted he carry her on his shoulders for most of the visit. A month into their relationship, Lydia invited Yates to a wedding for one of her matched couples. It was held at a beautiful vineyard outside the city, and watching her clients exchange vows, seeing the pure joy on their faces, Yates understood why Lydia did what she did. That's the 3rd wedding I've attended this year for couples I've matched, Lydia said during the reception, sipping champagne and watching the newlyweds dance. It never gets old, seeing 2 people who are perfect for each other finding happiness. You're really good at what you do. Yates pulled her onto the dance floor as a slow song began. Have you ever thought about teaching your methods to others? Not scaling up your business, but maybe workshops for other matchmakers. Lydia rested her head against his chest as they swayed to the music. I've thought about it. There's definitely a need for better training in the industry. Most matchmaking services are either pure algorithm with no human touch or pure intuition with no structure. You should do it. Write a book, teach seminars, something. Your approach could revolutionize the field. He kissed the top of her head. I'm not saying this as an investor. I'm saying it as someone who believes in what you do. I'll think about it, she promised. 2 months in, Lydia met Yates's mother and sister during a family visit. Margaret Vaughn was a petite woman with sharp eyes and a warm smile, and she immediately pulled Lydia into a hug upon meeting her. So you're the woman who has my son calling me 3 times a week instead of once, Margaret said, her tone teasing but affectionate. He talks about you constantly, dear. I had to hear all about your matching algorithm and your success rate and your green eyes. Mom, Yates protested, his ears turning slightly red. What? I'm just being honest. Margaret linked her arm through Lydia's. Come, let's have tea and you can tell me everything about yourself while Yates helps his sister with the groceries. An hour later, Margaret pronounced Lydia perfect, much to Yates's relief. His sister Emma was equally approving, pulling him aside while Lydia was in the bathroom to say, Don't screw this up. She's wonderful and she's good for you. I haven't seen you this happy in years. I'm not planning on screwing it up, Yates replied. I'm pretty sure I'm in love with her. Emma's face softened. Have you told her? Not yet. It feels too soon. Yates, you've always been the guy who analyzes everything to death. Sometimes you just have to feel something and say it. Trust me on this. That night, back at his penthouse with Lydia curled up beside him on the couch watching When Harry Met Sally for what she claimed was her first time but was definitely at least her second, Yates found the courage to say it. I love you. Lydia turned to look at him, surprise and joy mixing on her face. You love me. I love you. I know it's only been 2 months, and I know that's fast, but I'm sure. You make everything better, Lydia. Every single thing in my life is better with you in it. He took her hand, threading their fingers together. I love how passionate you are about your work. I love how you're not impressed by money or status. I love that you cry during commercials about soldiers coming home but claim you never cry. I love your terrible cooking and your beautiful laugh and the way you scrunch your nose when you're thinking hard about something. Tears were sliding down Lydia's cheeks now. I love you too. I've loved you for weeks, but I was too scared to say it. I thought maybe I was crazy falling this hard this fast. We're both crazy then. He kissed her, tasting salt from her tears and happiness. Be crazy with me. 3 months in, they hit their first real obstacle. Lydia got a phone call from a potential client, who turned out to be Yates's ex-girlfriend from college, Victoria. The woman did not know that Yates and Lydia were together, and she spent an hour on the phone with Lydia talking about how she had let the perfect man slip away and desperately wanted to find someone like him. When Lydia mentioned it to Yates that evening, expecting him to laugh it off, his expression went carefully blank instead. Victoria called you? Yeah. She booked a consultation for next week. Yates, what's wrong? You look like you've seen a ghost. He ran a hand through his hair, pacing his living room. Victoria and I dated for 3 years in college. I thought we were going to get married. I was about to propose when I found out she had been cheating on me for 6 months with some guy from her economics class. Lydia felt her stomach drop. Oh God, Yates, I'm so sorry, I had no idea. It was over a decade ago, I'm past it. But the idea of you working with her, of her not knowing about us and potentially saying things about me during your sessions, it makes me uncomfortable. He stopped pacing, meeting her eyes. I know that's irrational. You deal with confidential client information all the time. It's not irrational at all. This is someone who hurt you badly, and I completely understand not wanting me to work with her. Lydia stood, crossing to him. I'll tell her I can't take her as a client. I'll refer her to another matchmaker in the city. You don't have to do that. Yes, I do, because you matter more than any client, and I'm not going to do something that makes you uncomfortable if I can avoid it. She wrapped her arms around his waist. Besides, the thought of helping your ex find love is kind of making me feel stabby, so it's better for everyone if I pass. Yates laughed, some of the tension leaving his shoulders. Feel stabby, very stabby. I'm surprisingly territorial when it comes to you. He kissed her forehead. Good. I'm territorial about you too. They weathered the Victoria situation smoothly, and Lydia was relieved when the woman ended up working with another matchmaker, who was apparently a much better fit anyway. But the incident made both of them realize how serious they were becoming, how intertwined their lives were getting. At the 6-month mark, Yates asked Lydia to move in with him. They were having brunch at her favorite cafe, and he just blurted it out between bites of French toast. Move in with me. I know it's fast, and I know you love your apartment, but my place is bigger and closer to your office, and I hate the nights when you're not there. Half your stuff is already at my place anyway. Lydia set down her fork carefully. Are you sure? 6 months is quick for moving in together. I'm sure. I've never been more sure of anything. He reached across the table, taking her hand. But if you're not ready, I understand. I just wanted you to know that I want us to build a life together. I want that too, Lydia said slowly. But I need to keep my apartment for at least a few more months, just as a safety net. Not because I think we'll break up, but because moving in together is a big step and I want to make sure we're both certain. That's fair. Keep your apartment, move in gradually. I just want more mornings waking up next to you. They decided on a 3-month trial period where Lydia would stay at Yates's penthouse most nights, but maintain her lease. By the 2nd week, It was clear the arrangement was working perfectly. They fell into an easy routine together. Yates making coffee every morning while Lydia fed Biscuit, who had adapted to the larger space with enthusiasm. 7 months in, Lydia published her first article about matchmaking methodology in a professional journal, and it got picked up by several major news outlets. Suddenly, Perfect Match was getting attention from all over the country, with people calling to ask if she offered remote services. "I don't know what to do with all this attention," Lydia told Yates one evening as she scrolled through her email, looking overwhelmed. "I have 43 consultation requests, and I can only realistically take on maybe 5 new clients." "So don't take on new clients. Take on new matchmakers instead." Yates was sitting beside her, reviewing a contract for a new investment, but he set it aside to focus on her. "This is exactly what we talked about months ago. Train other matchmakers in your methods. Expand Perfect Match into something bigger while maintaining your standards. That's terrifying. Most good things are." He turned her laptop so he could see the screen. "Look at these emails, Lydia. People are desperate for what you offer. You could help so many more people if you were willing to scale up thoughtfully." She bit her lip, thinking, "I would need to hire carefully, train extensively, make sure anyone representing Perfect Match understands the philosophy." "You could do all that. I could help with the business side if you want, or you could hire someone else. But this is your moment if you're brave enough to take it." Lydia closed her laptop, turning to face him fully. "If I do this, if I expand Perfect Match, everything changes. It stops being just me in a small office. It becomes a real company." "Would that be so terrible?" "No, just different, scary different." She leaned against him. "Will you help me? Not as an investor, but as a partner, always," he promised. The next 6 months were a whirlwind of change. Lydia hired 2 new matchmakers, both women she had known from professional circles who shared her philosophy. She moved Perfect Match to a larger office space with room for growth. She developed a comprehensive training program and began offering it to other matchmakers outside her company. Yates helped with the business logistics, connecting her with lawyers for contracts and accountants for the expanding finances, but he carefully stayed out of the creative side, letting Lydia maintain full control of her vision. Through it all, their relationship deepened. They learned each other's rhythms and routines, how to fight fairly when disagreements arose, how to support each other through stress. Yates was there for the late nights when Lydia was anxious about the expansion, and Lydia was there when a major investment deal fell through, and Yates questioned his judgment. On their 1-year anniversary, Yates took Lydia back to Giovanni's, the Italian restaurant where they had their first dinner. They sat at the same booth, and Yates ordered the same wine they had shared that night. "1 year ago, you barely wanted to have dinner with me," he said, raising his glass. "You thought I was some corporate shark trying to steal your business. You wore me down with your charm and your surprising knowledge of romantic comedies." Lydia clinked her glass against his. "Best year of my life, Yates." "Mine too, but I'm hoping the next year will be even better." He set down his glass and reached into his jacket pocket, pulling out a small velvet box. "I had this whole elaborate plan, was going to take you to Paris and propose at the top of the Eiffel Tower. But sitting here, where everything started, this feels right." Lydia's hand flew to her mouth as he opened the box, revealing a stunning diamond ring with a platinum band. "Lydia Carter, you are the best thing that has ever happened to me. You make me want to be better, do better, love better. You've taught me that the most important investments aren't financial, they're in people and relationships and building something meaningful together. Will you marry me?" "Yes," she whispered, tears streaming down her face. "Yes, absolutely yes." He slipped the ring on her finger, and it fit perfectly, just like everything else about them. They kissed across the table, both of them laughing and crying, and the other diners in the restaurant broke into applause. Later that night, back at their penthouse with Biscuit purring contentedly on the couch beside them, they called their families to share the news. Margaret cried happy tears and immediately started talking about wedding plans. Rachel screamed so loudly that Lydia had to hold the phone away from her ear. Marcus told Yates he had never doubted this would happen, that he knew from the nervous phone call about what shirt to wear that Lydia was the one. "How did you know?" Lydia asked, curled up in Yates's arms as the city lights twinkled outside the floor-to-ceiling windows. "That I was the one, I mean. When did you know for sure?" Yates was quiet for a moment, thinking. "Honestly, that first dinner. When you told me about your dad and why you became a matchmaker, I remember thinking that I wanted to know everything about you. Every story, every dream, every fear. I wanted to be the person you told things to." He kissed her temple. "What about you? When did you know?" "The jazz festival. We were lying on the grass listening to that saxophonist, and you said something about how nothing mattered when I was around. I looked over at you, and you had this expression on your face, so peaceful and happy, and I just knew. My whole life I had been matching other people, helping them find their person, and I had found mine without even trying." "The matchmaker matched with her own heart," Yates murmured. "That's incredibly cheesy," Lydia said, but she was smiling. "You love cheesy. You made me watch The Notebook twice. That's different. That's cinema." They started planning the wedding immediately, deciding on a spring ceremony at the same vineyard where they had danced at her client's wedding. Lydia wanted something intimate, just close friends and family, and Yates agreed enthusiastically. The wedding industry tried to convince them they needed everything to be elaborate and expensive, but they stuck to their vision of something simple and meaningful. Perfect Match continued to grow steadily under Lydia's careful guidance. By the time their wedding day arrived in April, she had 4 matchmakers on staff and was training a dozen others through her professional development program. Her success rate had held steady at 85%, and she had been featured in 2 national magazines. The wedding itself was perfect. Lydia wore a simple ivory dress that made her look like she was glowing, and Yates wore a suit in a soft gray that complemented her beautifully. They wrote their own vows, and there was not a dry eye in the audience when Yates promised to support Lydia's dreams the way she supported his, to be her partner in every sense of the word, to love her through every season of life. Lydia's vows focused on how Yates had taught her that love was not just about compatibility charts and shared interests, that sometimes the best matches were the ones that surprised you, that challenged you to grow, that made you better than you were alone. Their first dance was to a jazz rendition of a classic love song, a nod to the jazz festival where they had first confessed their feelings. Margaret dabbed at her eyes with a tissue while Emma captured everything on video, determined to preserve every moment. During the reception, Rachel gave a toast that had everyone laughing and crying. "I've known Lydia since college, and I have watched her dedicate her life to helping other people find love. She is the most selfless, caring, passionate person I know, and she deserved someone who would love her the way she helps others love each other. Yates, you are exactly what she needed, someone who sees how special she is and isn't afraid to show it. Thank you for making my best friend so incredibly happy." Marcus followed with his own toast about Yates, talking about how his friend had always been focused and driven, but had been missing something essential until Lydia came along. She taught him that life is about more than the next deal or the next investment. She taught him to slow down, to be present, to value connection over achievement. And in return, Yates helped Lydia see that it was okay to dream bigger, to accept help, to build something extraordinary without losing sight of what made it special in the first place. They balance each other perfectly, and I could not be happier for both of them. As the evening wound down and guests began to leave, Yates and Lydia snuck away to a quiet corner of the vineyard, sitting on a bench overlooking the rolling hills bathed in moonlight. "Mrs. Vaughn," Yates said, testing out the name. "I'm keeping Carter professionally," Lydia reminded him, but she was smiling. "But I like hearing you say it. We could hyphenate. Carter Vaughn has a nice ring to it. We'll figure it out. We have the rest of our lives." She leaned her head on his shoulder. "I can't believe this is real sometimes. A year and a half ago I was sitting in my cramped office, typing up client notes, and you walked through the door." "Best wrong turn I ever took," Yates said. "My assistant had actually given me the address for a different business, some corporate team-building place. I realized halfway through our conversation that I was in the wrong office." Lydia sat up straight, staring at him. "What? You never told me that." I was embarrassed. "And then I was glad I had ended up in the wrong place, so I just went with it." He grinned at her shocked expression. "We can call it fate if you want. You've been lying to me for a year and a half about how we met. Not lying, just omitting certain details." He pulled her close despite her half-hearted protest. "Are you really mad?" "No, it's actually kind of perfect." Lydia started laughing. "The matchmaker who matched with her own heart because of a wrong address. Rachel is going to lose her mind when I tell her." They honeymooned in Italy, spending 2 weeks exploring Rome, Florence, and the Amalfi Coast. They ate incredible food, toured ancient ruins, and spent lazy afternoons in their hotel room just enjoying being together without the pressures of work and daily life. Yates practiced his limited Italian on patient shopkeepers, while Lydia took hundreds of photos, determined to remember every moment. When they returned home, they settled into married life with ease. Lydia continued to grow Perfect Match, eventually opening a second office across the city and hiring 3 more matchmakers. She published a book about her methods that became a surprise bestseller, leading to speaking engagements and consulting opportunities. Through it all, Yates was her steady support, celebrating her victories and helping her navigate challenges. Yates shifted his own focus, becoming more selective about his investments so he could spend more time at home. He started a nonprofit foundation that provided business grants and mentorship to entrepreneurs from underprivileged backgrounds, finding deep satisfaction in helping others achieve their dreams the way he had achieved his. 2 years after their wedding, they decided to start trying for a baby. It happened faster than they expected, and Lydia found out she was pregnant on a random Tuesday morning while Yates was making breakfast. She took 3 tests just to be sure, then walked into the kitchen and simply held them up without saying a word. Yates dropped the spatula he was holding, eggs forgotten on the stove. "Really? Are you serious?" "Very serious. We're having a baby." He crossed the kitchen in 2 strides, picking her up and spinning her around despite her laughing protests. "We're having a baby. We're going to be parents." "Oh God, I need to call my mom, and Marcus, and we need to prepare the spare room. Should we paint it yellow? We don't know if it's a boy or a girl yet." "Yates, breathe," Lydia said, still laughing. "We have time. I'm only like 6 weeks along." But there was no slowing down Yates's excitement. He threw himself into preparing for fatherhood with the same intensity he brought to everything else, reading parenting books and researching car seats and baby-proofing the entire penthouse. Lydia found it endearing, his determination to be the best father possible. The pregnancy was smooth, and they found out at 20 weeks that they were having a daughter. Margaret immediately started knitting blankets and booties, while Emma sent a steady stream of baby clothes and gear from Colorado. Rachel threw Lydia a beautiful shower, and all of her matched couples sent gifts and congratulations. Their daughter, Hannah Rose Vaughn, was born on a snowy January morning after 12 hours of labor. She had Lydia's green eyes and Yates's dark hair, and she was absolutely perfect. Yates cried when he held her for the first time, overwhelmed by the love he felt for this tiny person. "She's going to have a great life," he whispered to Lydia as Hannah slept in her arms. "We're going to make sure of it." "We are," Lydia agreed. "She's going to know what real love looks like, what partnership means. She's going to see her parents working together, supporting each other, choosing each other every day." They brought Hannah home to a nursery painted in soft yellows and whites, with a mobile of stars hanging over her crib. Biscuit was initially suspicious of the new tiny human but gradually accepted her presence, eventually becoming her devoted protector. Lydia took 6 months off from Perfect Match to focus on being a mother, though she stayed involved in major decisions and continued to train her growing team of matchmakers remotely. Yates arranged his schedule to work from home as much as possible, wanting to be present for every milestone. Hannah's first smile, her first laugh, her first time sleeping through the night, they experienced it all together. They took turns with night feedings and diaper changes, figuring out parenthood as a team the way they approached everything else. It was exhausting and overwhelming and absolutely wonderful. When Hannah was 8 months old and Lydia was back at work part-time, they had a date night at home, takeout from Giovanni's, and a bottle of wine after Hannah was asleep. They sat on the couch where they had spent countless evenings, and Yates pulled Lydia close. "You remember when you asked me to have dinner with you that first time and I almost said no," Lydia said, playing with his fingers. "I nearly told you I was busy, that I couldn't make it." "But you didn't." "But I didn't. Best decision I ever made, saying yes to you." She looked up at him. "Everything good in my life traces back to that dinner. This marriage, Hannah, the growth of Perfect Match, all of it started because I took a chance on you." "I took a chance on you too," Yates reminded her. "I walked into your office planning to stay for 10 minutes out of obligation, and I ended up falling completely in love with you. You changed everything for me, Lydia. Before you, I was successful but alone. I had money and status but nothing that really mattered. You taught me what was important." "We taught each other," she corrected. "I was so focused on my work, on helping everyone else find happiness, that I was ignoring my own life. You reminded me that I deserved love too, that putting myself first sometimes wasn't selfish." They stayed up late talking about everything and nothing, about Hannah's future and their own dreams, about maybe having another baby in a year or two, about growing old together and watching their daughter grow up. It was a conversation they had had variations of countless times before, but it never got old, planning a life together. By the time Hannah turned 2, Perfect Match had expanded to 5 locations across the state with a team of 22 matchmakers. Lydia had published a second book and launched an online course that taught her methods to matchmakers worldwide. She had achieved everything she had once dreamed of and more, but her greatest joy remained coming home to Yates and Hannah every evening. Yates's foundation had grown as well, providing grants to over 100 entrepreneurs and creating a network of mentorship and support. He still did some private investing, but his heart was in helping people who reminded him of his younger self, people with drive and vision but limited resources. On what would have been their 5th wedding anniversary, they threw a party at the vineyard where they had gotten married, inviting all their friends and family. Hannah toddled around in a little yellow dress, charming everyone she encountered, while Biscuit, now elderly and gray around the muzzle, surveyed the proceedings from a comfortable cushion. Margaret and Emma flew in from Colorado, and Rachel brought her kids, now teenagers who doted on Hannah. Marcus brought his girlfriend, a professor he had been dating for 6 months and was clearly smitten with. Many of Lydia's matched couples attended, some of them married now with children of their own, all of them grateful for the role she had played in their happiness. As the sun set and the party continued around them, Yates pulled Lydia away for a quiet moment, just as they had done on their wedding night. 5 years married, 6.5 years together, he said, wrapping his arms around her waist from behind as they looked out over the vineyard. Best years of my life. Mine too. Lydia leaned back against him, watching Hannah play with Rachel's daughter on the grass. Do you ever think about how differently things could have gone? If you had not walked into my office that day, if I had said no to dinner, if we had let our differences keep us apart. Sometimes. But I think we would have found each other eventually. Some things are meant to be. He kissed her neck. The matchmaker who matched with her own heart. That's what Marcus calls it. It's still cheesy, Lydia said, but she was smiling. But I guess he is right. I spent so long helping other people find their perfect match, never expecting that mine would walk through my door wearing an expensive suit and offering to invest in my business. And I spent so long focused on money and success, never realizing that what I really needed was someone who saw past all that to who I actually was. Yates turned her to face him. Thank you for seeing me, Lydia, for loving me, for building this incredible life with me. Thank you for taking a chance on the cynical matchmaker who almost turned you away. She stood on her tiptoes to kiss him. Here is to the next 5 years and the 5 after that and all the years to come. They rejoined the party hand in hand, greeting guests and soaking in the love and warmth that surrounded them. Hannah ran to them, demanding to be picked up, and Yates obliged, settling her on his hip while Lydia wrapped an arm around both of them. They stood like that for a moment, a family, complete and happy and exactly where they were meant to be. The millionaire who had walked into a matchmaking office out of obligation had found something far more valuable than any business deal or investment return. He had found love, partnership, and a purpose that went beyond accumulating wealth. And the matchmaker who had dedicated her life to helping others find happiness had discovered that sometimes the best match of all was the one you never saw coming, the one that surprised you and challenged you and made you believe in fate. Their story, born from a chance encounter and nurtured through trust and commitment, was proof that love could find you when you least expected it, that taking risks on connection was always worth it, and that the best investments were the ones made in people and relationships. It was a story they would tell Hannah when she was older, about how her parents met and fell in love, and it was a story that would continue to unfold for decades to come, filled with joy and challenges and all the beautiful complexity of a life built together. As the party continued into the night and stars began to appear in the darkening sky, Yates looked at his wife and daughter and felt a profound sense of gratitude. He had everything he had never known he needed, everything that truly mattered, and it had all started with one woman in a cluttered office who had been brave enough to give him a chance. The matchmaker who had matched with his heart, and he with hers, creating something extraordinary from that first unexpected connection.